Did you know that bees communicate via the medium of dance?
Yeah, that's just how bees are.
How bizarre?
How bees are.
I can't believe that you made me do that. I feel defiled, Pete.
Do you?
I had to take part in your gag, and I bet no one gets it.
No, probably not. So, just in case they don't, what's the difference between a badly dressed man on a unicycle and a smartly dressed man on a bicycle?
I don't know.
Attire.
You know, like back in the day, there was the guy who was held hostage, and he blinked in Morse code.
No.
SOS on a TV interview. I feel like I need to do that. I feel like I'm trapped in an abusive situation.
Don't worry, Stockholm Syndrome will click in soon and you'll be fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine. So, did you know something?
I do know something.
We are coming up. We're coming up to a year of podcasting next month. So 11 months. But it's been 10 years that you and I have been working together.
It is.
It is actually 10 years now. So I got you a present. And I'm going to give it to you live on the podcast. This is completely unrehearsed, folks. There you go.
Did you actually get me a present?
Yeah, there you go. You're feeling bad that you didn't get me one, aren't you?
I'll be honest, I'm not. But I like the way you've done it up in kind of rainbow tape, which has stars on it.
It's unicorn tape.
And for the benefit of those who are not watching us on YouTube.
Yeah, I've just given... So I'll let you carry on wrapping it. So I've just given Dave it's quite obviously a picture frame wrapped up in bubble wrap with some unicorn rainbow tape to commemorate 10 years of us working together. We're getting some sound effects. That's something. So,
A bit of ASMR, I believe. It's all bubble wrap. Hang on.
Yeah. So if you're only watching this rather than the Constant Geekery podcast, which is youtube.com/the Constant Geekery podcast, there you go. Do you like it?
Excellent. It's a yeah. It's a picture of me gurning, and the word no since 2011 is written on here. So
It's obviously it's before 2011, but in with us working as business partners, it's been since 2011.
I prefer to keep things unambiguous.
Yeah.
So I like to use the word no. That's very kind of you, Pete.
That's
Thank
all
you.
right. Feel free to put it on the wall in your office if you can find one.
I will feel free to do that, or not, as the case may be. But thank you. I imagine all expense was spared in the production of that.
Yeah, there was no expense other than the small amount of my time and other people's.
Brilliant. We're probably about 5 minutes into the podcast, and people will have tuned in because of whatever's on the thumbnail. And I have no idea what's going to be on the thumbnail this week.
Abuse of Dave. That will probably get some clicks.
That might do.
What's in the news this week?
The news. So, well, of course, everyone's very excited, aren't they? Because it is potentially the Apple event next week, and therefore everyone's expecting that the invites will go out today. And I expect if that does happen, it will happen at 10 a.m. Cupertino time.
Eastern Standard Time.
That'll be the one.
No, Western. Whatever it is you guys do in the States with your time zones.
Isn't
and
it
things.
Pacific something or other?
Pacific something.
Yeah.
But
in the UK, that'll be about 6 o'clock.
Yeah, because it's the morning in the UK when we record this.
Yeah, and I expect our podcast will be live before the announcement is made. So, therefore, either... Isn't it exciting? There's an Apple event next week.
Yeah, we should just do two things for this and let Tom edit it. Oh, I can't wait for the Apple event next week. We'll be doing it live. That's fantastic.
No, there's been no Apple event invite.
It's gutting, really, because we thought there might be one.
Actually, this won't work because Tom will have to edit the podcast before we find out. So basically, both of those things are in. So one of those things will or won't have happened later today.
So anyway, should we talk about that in our main topic a little bit later?
Yes, we don't really have much of a main topic. I think to have anything other than the Apple event at this point in time would be just silly. Anyway, here you are. This is episode 29 of the Constant Geekery podcast, season 2.
Yeah, and if you stuck with us this far, well done. Probably time to get a life. But yeah, no, sorry, that's very disrespectful to our loyal subscribers and listeners. So thank you thank you for that.
So in the news, we spoke a few weeks ago about the Csam scanning that Apple was going to do. So this is scanning your phone when it uploads images to iCloud and hashing those images and then checking that hash against known child abuse images.
Yeah.
So that's the basic gist of it. If you want to find out more about that, obviously lots in the news, or find that podcast a few weeks ago. However, what Apple are now saying is that they're going to delay that launch.
Yes. Yeah.
How do we feel about that?
Well, again, this is a really polarizing topic. I think it's the EFF, which is remind me what that acronym, something
Electronic Frontier Foundation.
That's the one. They've been campaigning for them to abandon this approach, and I have mixed views about it, because on one hand, I can understand why the EFF are campaigning for that. But before we talk about that, there is, of course, the elephant in the room that others are already doing what Apple was proposing to do.
Yes.
Which is definitely the elephant in the room.
Yeah, I think so. I think Apple did their best to implement this in a way that preserved privacy for most people. They possibly weren't expecting quite such a backlash, considering what you just said, that everyone else is already doing it and that they'd come up with a better way of doing it. So I think they were perhaps a little bit surprised, and so they've announced that they're just going to delay it whilst they look at it all again, basically. And
so I can So going back to the EFF, I can understand their concerns, because if this was just about protecting children, which at the moment it is, completely support that, completely understand that. However, a similar system was implemented in the UK for ISPs some time back, specifically to combat child abuse images like this. And that's what it was built for. But subsequently, they were forced to expand that technology to cover less serious crimes such as IP infringement and that kind of thing. So I think where the EFF are coming from on this is not that they want to, it's not that they don't care about these abusive images, it's where it could lead to. And I think whenever you have a technology, no matter how secure, that has the potential to unlock things on your phone, decrypt, access, if you're doing stuff that's nefarious, fine. But if it starts encroaching on other liberties, shall we say, other privacy points, it's the thin end of the wedge. And not only that, but if you have that technology, yes, okay, you could say, well, we'll use it responsibly, fine. But there are agencies in the past that have shown that they can't be trusted with people's personal data, and of course there is criminals in the cyber hacking world. If there's a way into something, you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to be working on that. So I think it opens up a Pandora's box, and that's where the EFF are coming from, despite the elephant in the room we just talked about.
Yeah, okay. I think to offer some balance to that as well, I don't believe there's a massive security issue with stuff getting decrypted by cyber criminals. I think it's a much easier challenge for them to go for passwords.
Yeah, social engineering and guessing your password and that kind of stuff. And just to be clear, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the EFF's campaign. I'm just painting where they're coming at it from.
Yeah, well, I think it's all about protecting our liberties in the electronic sphere. And Apple's defense of this, of course, is that they will always resist a government demand to do this, that, or the other. But you mentioned the system in the UK that ISPs were obliged to do. Well, British Sky Broadcasting went to court over that and lost. Yeah. So they were essentially forced to do it. So I think the general feeling is that Apple could be forced to do the same thing. Obviously, Apple's a much bigger, more wealthy company, but then Sky's got a bit of money as well.
Yeah, they're not a small entity.
No. Anyway, interesting. We'll report back on that as it develops. Something that I saw in the news, 9to5mac.com were reporting on this.
It's a non-story.
Okay, but they had a bit of a poll going on Twitter, and the headline is basically solo loop. Now that's I'm wearing one, as is Pete, on our Apple Watch. It's this kind of silicon band thing that attaches your watch to your wrist. What they're saying is it's not quite as durable as Apple led us to believe. And just thinking back to the launch of that, they did wax lyrical in true Apple style about how wonderful this piece of rubber is, and that it's long lasting. I do remember them talking about its durability.
Okay, so
And I think it's important to say, before you have your little rant, and perhaps Tom and Erin can just get Pete's soapbox ready over there for him to climb upon.
don't have a soapbox.
There's a couple of images of broken straps. In fact, it looks to me to be the same watch. So it's basically one person has got a broken strap, and
therefore the entire internet melts down.
Well, not the entire internet, but I think maybe it was a quiet news day, and there we go. Solo loop, Pete. I mean, these are not cheap bits of rubber, are they? They're £50.
Right, let's start by saying, how's your solo loop doing, Dave?
It's gone shiny on the edges, and but otherwise it is exactly as it was.
Yeah. Do you know what? So's mine. And I suspect if you've got one, so's yours. But honestly, I'm looking at this article now. One user reported, mine developed a small cut in it. Now, I've been around on this earth for just over 40 years.
I think it's quite a bit over 40 years.
It's all relative. In my experience, things don't develop a small cut in themselves by themselves. And if you look at the picture of the person who developed a small cut, and I am deploying the air quotes here, perhaps we can get Tom to put a picture up.
I'm just going to do it in a kind of... I'm just going to turn my iPad around.
Smooth production values in today's podcast. Okay,
so for the benefit of those who are watching us on YouTube, it is youtube.com/The Constant Geekery Podcast, where you can indeed see my iPad on the table with a photo on it. Pete, continue with your rant.
Okay, so first of all, let's just look at the general condition of this watch. First of all, there's skin cheese in the crown. Okay. Now, you know what I'm talking about. That just going to go down a little anecdote here. When I was younger, my dad was a jeweler. Well, not when I was younger. My dad was a retail jeweler. Okay. So I used to work in his shop on a Saturday when I was a teenager. And one of my jobs was changing watch batteries, which was a bit of a, well, you'd either have a clean watch or you'd have a watch encased in skin cheese, which is basically where people never washed themselves or their watch. So basically, you were chiseling off that just to get into the back of the case.
It does sound a lot like computer repair, because
We've already talked about that laptop on this podcast.
Have we?
Yes, we.
But what if some people are listening who didn't enjoy that the first time round? Yeah. A customer bought us in a laptop.
Tom's face palming already behind the camera.
Which belonged to his son, and the thing looked like it was growing pubic hair. It was not a winner.
It had its own ecosystem.
Oh,
anyway,
so disgusting.
Looking back at this picture, it's encrusted in that.
It is. It's making me feel a bit queasy, I'll be honest.
It's got what looks like some kind of crack or damage where the glass screen fits to the bezel. It's not in good condition, is it? It's not in good condition. And this person says it developed a small cut. Well, I put to you, they probably ran through a bramble thicket or something like that, because that would not happen during normal use. So, basically, the news story is solo loop doesn't last if you don't look after it. Things wear out. That's like scientists have been doing research for the last 10 years and have discovered that water is indeed wet.
Have you finished now?
For the moment.
So I've been fairly careful with my Apple Watch. I managed to crack it.
Did you?
It's a very small crack. You won't even be able to see it. There's a tiny little mark there, right? And if you look at it with a magnifying glass, you can see the little cracks. So
I
I'm not
can
convinced.
confirm there's no skin cheese on his watch, and I know he looks after stuff. So,
Yeah, it was a stupid mistake, but there we go.
but you can take it back to Apple and get it repaired.
Yeah, I
surely.
figured, it's just it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the screen. I'd just like to know it's waterproof again, so just get the glass changed over. I don't have Apple Care, so I just went on the Apple website to have a look at what it will cost for a piece of glass.
Mhm.
Care's a hazard a guess.
As much as the watch.
It's not far off. Let me get, how much is the watch? Is it £350 in the UK?
Something like that. If only we had a researcher behind the camera who could look that up for us.
So Apple Watch 6, the standard aluminium one, how much is it, Erin? I'll tell you how much the out of warranty fee is. And there's no scale here at all. So it doesn't matter whether you've got the tiniest little crack on your glass or whether you've completely mullered your watch. The fee is the same, £286 and 44 pence.
£286. And what's the 379? So £100 less than the actual watch itself.
You would just, and bearing in mind that a new watch would come with a new solar loop, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you may as well just buy the new watch.
Well, that's not very environmentally conscious, is it?
But Apple are very environmentally conscious,
know
apparently,
that.
so they keep telling us. But yeah, there we
You
go.
could wait for the Apple Watch 7, which is not getting delayed at all. But that's another subject. But you're missing the point, though, aren't you?
Am I, though?
Yeah. These aren't watches.
No, I'll agree with you there. It's not a watch.
It is a computer that sits on your wrist that happens to tell the time. Much like your phone is not actually a phone, it's a computer that happens to make phone calls. And they are designed with built-in obsolescence, and they're not going to last forever. It's not like the watch you got on the other side of your wrist there.
No, so this is one my wife bought for me. A little bit of an eBay find. This was purchased by the original owner in 1970. I have the original receipt. So that makes it
as old as you.
50 years old. Well, you tell me, Pete, does that look...
It's in better condition than you.
It's in better condition than the Apple Watch. That's less than a year old. And one thing that you will notice with, if you buy a decent mechanical watch, it will usually have what they call a sapphire or a mineral crystal.
Yep.
So rather than this nonsense, this Gorilla Glass, which they claim is super, super hard and everything, and quite clearly isn't, because I can guarantee that would not have happened.
Yeah, but can
on
you
a
make
sapphire crystal.
can you make a sapphire glass touch sensitive?
I don't know.
Right. Well, that's probably why. Well, but it's not only that, is it?
I suspect it's more to do with the shape.
They're
but-
completely different things.
They are, yes, they are completely different things. But here's the thing, right? You go out and spend £379 on a watch. A nice mechanical watch, you could get for that money. You could get into some of the budget brands with Seiko movements in them,
Yep.
or indeed a Seiko itself with a nice automatic movement and a mineral crystal, and it will last decades if you look after it. Decades.
Of course it will, because it's a different thing.
But yeah, it is a different thing, but the principle is still the same. Why should it be the case that this thing has no lasting power whatsoever? Everything that we've got is all throwaway now.
And I agree with that. I hate that. I do hate that. But your watch doesn't prompt you to upgrade from movement V1 to movement V2, where they've added haptics. Do you know what I mean? The movement is a movement. It needs servicing from time to time. But there's no software in your mechanical watch. That's a good thing. But it's a different beast from that, which is, it's a computer. Computers age. They go obsolete.
So let's go back to this out of warranty fee of $286.44. Now, I know from having watched on YouTube someone take the glass off, these things are quite difficult to repair. But I recently had this watch serviced. And that means if you have a mechanical watch service, what they do is they open it up and they take everything apart. And then they clean everything and lubricate everything and put it all back together. All of these minuscule, tiny little parts. And they do all of that. So I had this fully serviced. It's running perfectly, very accurate, lovely. £200.
Can I ask you a question?
£200.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
But how can somebody who do all of that work for £200, but Apple can't swap out a piece of glass for less than £286?
Because they don't want you to. And let me put something else to you. When you got your watch back after its service, how did you feel about putting it on your wrist?
Good.
You felt good, didn't you? You knew that I've got it serviced, that's going to keep it going. Getting a mechanical watch service is a good thing. How would you feel if you got your watch repaired? Be honest.
Well, the Apple
The
Watch.
Apple Watch, yeah. Knowing how icky it is to fix it.
I'd probably feel a bit, like who's actually done it? Is it a craftsman or craftswoman somewhere,
Craftsperson.
a craftsperson, or is it some spotty teenager out the back of an Apple store somewhere?
Why is everyone looking at Tom? He's not even got any spots.
It's harsh.
Stop it.
I wasn't looking at him, but I was. As
Erin went,
well, that just confirms what we were saying the other week.
yeah, it does
Yeah.
completely confirm that.
We should probably move on. I think we're in danger of sounding like grumpy old men. But what do you think, folks, about this kind of environment of building all of these products that are essentially non-repairable, and they're non-repairable not because they can't be repaired, but because Apple obstructs you from repairing them.
Yeah. I think we should probably ask Lewis Rossman to come on the show and get his view on it, because he probably has a view.
I think he probably does.
Let's reach out.
Let's go through another piece of news. Last week we spoke about the iPhone 13 having satellite messaging features.
Yes.
So some additional clarification has been made about that, which is that it's only going to be available in certain markets, which I think we probably could have deduced that's the same as everything Apple does.
Yeah.
You
can't get it everywhere.
No. And I was actually quite surprised, but in fact, several of our subscribers are in Australia, and apparently they get stuff later than us. So we in the UK, we tend to get stuff at the time that Apple releases for the US.
Yeah.
But various features and things, they seem to take a bit of time to get down under.
Really? Is that because the satellites only pass by every so often because it's in the southern hemisphere?
I don't know. I think no. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I was going to be rude to Americans, and that's not my style, because Americans are lovely. And my experience of travelling to America, and I'm sure you can confirm this, Pete, is that all of the stereotypes that I had in my head before I ever went there, none of them turned out to be the case, and everyone was just really nice and friendly.
That has been my experience.
Apart from the guy who mugged me. But other than that, it's been lovely being in America.
Apparently in Canada it's very similar, but there they ask if you mind if they mug you.
It's a bit like in Glasgow, where they'll stab you first, but then they'll give you directions to the hospital.
Or maybe even give you a lift.
Possibly,
Yeah. Anyway, no real great surprise there. I'm not even sure why we put that in the news, satellite iPhone messages.
Because there was the other thing about it is that it will only work if you've got no service. So it's not like, I'm getting a satellite phone.
No.
It's an emergency backup system. So I felt that was worth adding on, because we spoke, and we're probably going to speak again in a moment, about the very small differentiation in features from one generation to the next. So if satellite messaging becomes this big kind of halo feature, let's just be realistic that it is a great feature for some people who live in the right area, who are outside of phone signal a lot, those kind of things.
Well, yeah, I think, if you're stuck up a mountain and you're in trouble, won't you be pleased you've got that feature?
And unless you're not in the select markets that Apple have chosen for that feature, in which case I don't think you'll be feeling great about it.
Yeah.
Quite an amusing one. Windows 11.
Yeah.
So the various insider preview releases have been going out, just like Apple does with its beta program. So they'll keep doing new releases. And the most recent release, Microsoft broke by injecting ads.
Yeah, specifically for what application?
Microsoft Teams. Yeah, it sounds worse than it is, but yeah, Microsoft Teams. And what it did was remove the taskbar and start.
Yeah, which you can probably live without, to be fair.
Not easily, I don't think.
No, that was sarcasm.
I missed that.
Yeah.
That's
That's like saying it removed the steering wheel and ignition key.
That wouldn't stop some people based on some of the videos I see on YouTube.
Well, you're going to get people saying, "Well, you could do Command R and start from the command line." Yes, you could, assuming that still worked after it. But we're being facetious.
I think it does. It sort of leads into a wider question because I do use Windows. I've got a laptop at the moment which is Windows until Apple bring out the next iteration.
I boot camped an iMac the other day with Windows 10.
Did you?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Went
Give
well.
yourself a gold star.
Oh, I'm so pleased. It went really well.
Good. And obviously my main workstation is Windows. So something that really irritates me about Windows is that it does do this. You know, you do get that bloat where the Candy Crush ads in the start menu. The other thing as well, when you open up the settings and it's got Microsoft Rewards at the top, and you can't turn that off. And various other things that it does, like it by default, it will show messages on your lock screen. You can turn it off, but it's just irritating that it does all of that. macOS doesn't do any of that stuff.
And do you find it cheapens the experience for you with all that stuff?
Yes, it does.
Actually, if you turn all those things off, the ones that you can turn off, Windows is a nice experience. But to start with those things on it does feel it's a bit like when you get a parcel and there's loads of leaflets in it for different services you're just not interested in. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Anyway, there we go.
We do sound like grumpy old men.
We do. I like Windows. I think Windows 11 is a good move, but seriously, Microsoft needs to stop with this advert stuff and the.
They probably get
I have
paid
no
a lot of
confidence
money.
in privacy.
No.
Using Windows, I really don't, and so I'm careful about what I do with it. Of course, I'm lucky because I have both machines, so I can use the Mac as well if I want to. But some people don't have that luxury, and a lot of the world, Mac computers are just outside of the realms of possibility.
Or they're not available in that region.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another piece of news: the cryptocurrency Chia. Is it Chia? I don't know how you pronounce it. I looked into this a while back because I thought it was interesting. In that,
Interesting how?
It doesn't use GPUs for mining. It uses your storage, SSD storage.
Right.
I remember reading about it and maybe understood it at the time, but I couldn't tell you how it works. It uses SSD drives and it uses them hard.
Okay.
That's what you need to know here. And the other thing you need to know is that the price of Chia has dropped dramatically.
Has it?
So there are many miners. Sorry, I can't help but smile. There are many miners who have found themselves in a sticky wicket and are now needing to sell off their SSDs to make their money back. What a shame.
Yeah, that is a shame. So they're selling off these second-hand SSDs.
Yeah, although it seems, and maybe this is a statement about the kind of people that are doing this, is that they're selling them as new, apparently, or trying to.
What now?
Labelling heavily used SSDs as new. Lots of them apparently on the market at the moment, according to WindowsCentral.com.
Well, that's not a good thing. And if you'd like to know more about how SSDs work, you did put together a rather good video on the main channel about that, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, and that will tell you why you do not want a heavily used one.
You don't.
Especially if it's being sold as new.
Yeah, there's if you're on Windows, then download Crystal Disk Info. That will tell you whether your SSD has been used or not. You right there, Pete?
Yeah, I think I can hear my cable.
Can you?
Banging up against the table. So if anyone hears like tapping, it's one of my mic cables. Sorry about that.
It could also be me because I like to swing my legs and my microphone cable is by my feet.
Well,
it's all highly technical in the studio.
Absolutely.
Well, this kind of brings us onto our main topic for the week.
Which 29 minutes.
Well, it's because we didn't really have much of a main topic. It is the Apple event announcement. We're expecting it today. I think everyone's expecting it today, and then we'll expect the event to be next Tuesday. If it is next Tuesday, then we won't be doing a podcast as per usual, but we will be doing a live stream on the main channel.
Yeah,
so
after the event.
After the event. For about an hour or something, something like that, so we can talk about it with you guys. So if there is an announcement and that's what's happening, then join us then, and we'll put up some more information on the channel in the days to come. If, however, there is no announcement today, then that will happen at a later date.
Yeah, we'll have to make up something else for next week.
Hard. I got a question for you, though, first of all, before we talk about the Apple event.
Okay.
All the rumours and the leaks, do they spoil Apple events?
Well, by definition of the fact that rumours and leaks are known as spoilers, yes. Yes, they do. It's the same as films, okay? It's the same as films. If you're going to see a film and you already know what happens, particularly if it's a film where there is some kind of clever twist or something, you already know, where's the fun in that? That went really high, didn't it?
I don't know what happened there.
Where's the fun in that? No, yeah, stop it, okay? There is no fun in it. Now, I am guilty of reading spoilers for not just films but television programs, and it does ruin the experience for you to a degree. And I only have to go back to the last film. This shows you, the last film I went into completely spoiler-free. Okay, was over
I thought you were going to say.
23 years ago.
Right. Not Casablanca, then.
No, although that plot twist did get me in the cinema when that first came out, and that whole thing about Peter Pan and Hook. Oh, anyway, don't get me started on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The last film I went to see was The Matrix, spoiler free. All I knew was it was a science fiction film, and I thoroughly enjoyed the reveals in that. I'm not even going to reveal them now, because if you haven't seen The Matrix and you like a bit of sci-fi, I don't believe you haven't seen it, but if you haven't seen it, it's quite a clever story. Not the sequels or anything like that, but I thoroughly enjoyed it because I wasn't expecting it. So on top of the visual spectacular and all the other things that go into making a good film, the plot was new to me, and it was a great reveal.
Excellent. So just as a public service announcement, that's The Matrix, the first one. The sequels, you don't need to see those.
No.
Nobody needed to see those.
Nobody wanted to see those.
No.
Well, apart from the people that made Warner Bros, wasn't it? Probably wanted to see those.
I've got a question then to follow up from that. If you remember that so fondly, that experience of being wowed and wondered and surprised, why the flipping heck, Pete, do you look up the plot before you go to watch a movie? Especially when I'm watching a movie back in the day before COVID, when you could go and do that at the cinema. You know, you need to take out a small mortgage to buy the ticket. So,
twofold. One is we live in a society of instant gratification. We can't wait for anything. We have to have it.
Well, you can't wait for anything.
No, we live in a society.
All right.
So the royal we, that's the collective people, not you, Mr. Curmudgeonly. Okay. But we do. We live in a society where no one can wait for anything. They have to know. And entertainers know that. So we're just sticking with the entertainment industry, films and television at the moment. So they leave things on a cliffhanger, which is, fine, but then you have to know what happens, so you can't wait. So either they release everything together, or you go and look it up on your websites of choice. But on top of that, anytime you watch a trailer now, it basically tells you the plot of the film and all the good bits. So you can't even watch a trailer anymore. We live in a society where part of the spectacle, the PR, the promotion is giving away all the goodies. And tech has, and particularly Apple's, Apple brilliant at marketing, they've cottoned on to that, and that's why this sort of spoiler stuff goes on.
Are you saying that Apple's PR department is secretly behind some of these rumours and spoilers?
You've left your notifications.
No, I haven't. I've got my thing on Do Not Disturb, and yet Outlook ignores that and sends me notifications anyway on the iPad.
Well,
please fix that, Microsoft. It's very irritating.
I would be very surprised if they don't do a bit of guerrilla marketing that way. And there's probably a little team somewhere that actually does these fake renders to give out to people.
Well, yeah, maybe. I think they probably should do that if they're not doing it already. But
if you're not doing it already, Apple, that's our idea, so give us a kickback. Okay.
I think what Apple should actually do is break the chain. They should not announce an event today. They should just completely not do what anyone expects them to do, just to get back some of that mystery. And I'm sort of thinking back. Did this happen 5 years ago? I honestly can't remember for certain, but I don't think it did.
You are getting very old.
Well, I'm following you down this road of getting older.
Yeah.
Somehow I can't seem to help myself.
Do you know, newsflash, we're all getting older. It's just you're doing it slower. Yeah.
I think it does really spoil the event because there's nothing new. When we get to the event, Apple have got nothing left to reveal. There's no excitement.
There is no one more thing anymore.
No. Well, apart from when they did the Apple Silicon, I don't think anyone was expecting that. They were expecting it, but not right then.
No.
Apple came out sooner than expected with that. But what are they gonna have in the bag this time?
Well, we already know. I mean, yeah, there might be some little details, but broadly, we know what's going to happen next week.
So what's going to happen next week?
iPhone 13, possibly Apple Watch announced, but there's going to be delays in shipping it because of, guess again, the chip shortage or the fries shortages, I think that they call it in the States. Sorry, that was a little bit of a joke there, but it wasn't very funny. Possibly some new AirPods, and no MacBooks.
Okay, so this is most likely to be an event all about consumer devices. It's the iPhone event. So first of all, iPhone 13, we would expect an iPhone 13, an iPhone 13 Pro, a Pro Max, but will there be a Mini?
Yes.
You think there will be?
Yeah.
I think Apple are going to drop the Mini.
Well, we'll find out next week, won't we?
Will they do a new iPhone SE this time?
No.
You don't think so?
No, because they'll do the Mini instead.
But the
No.
point of the SE is not the size of it; it's the cheapness of it.
Yeah, no, they won't do that.
Okay, Pete, you're whispering.
I'm probably wrong on that. I'm whispering because I'm not sure of it.
I think the Mini was being sold off cheap. I know it didn't sell very well compared to Apple's expectations, and I think a lot of the issues with it are the battery life is not long enough. So will they fix that with making a Mini with a longer battery, or will they just drop it altogether?
I think there still will be a Mini. I think
Okay.
I did read an article saying, yes, all the things that you say are true, but they are going to persist with it.
Interesting. Okay. And we expect Apple Watch Series 7 with a new chip in it and a new design, a flatter design and a thinner design, which it would need to be if it's flatter, and also larger screens and, of course, new sizes for all your straps. So all your straps, your Solo Loop and everything else that you've bought for your existing watch won't work with the new one.
And I think I can predict, I can reveal, okay, that they're going to have redefined the Solo Loop for this event.
They'll have reinvented rubber.
Yeah, we've taken rubber and taken it to a whole new level.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing what they bring out with that. Do you think any major new software features? I mean, typically
Well,
those would have been
already done
announced
that.
at WWDC.
And here's an example of where, when the spoilers are wrong, we just get even more disappointed, don't we? Because we were expecting new MacBooks to be announced at WWDC and we weren't. I tell you what, wouldn't it be great if Apple have kept close to their chest some amazing announcement? Because we're all going, no, there won't be any new Macs or anything at this event because it's a consumer event. That would be brilliant if they said, oh, and just before we go, we've got 20 minutes on this fantastic new MacBook. I mean, Dave was talking about the MacBook SE the other day.
Interesting.
Which would be a consumer product.
Yeah.
In colours.
In colours. Yeah, I like the idea of that.
So, we'll have to see. But that would be great.
It would. I don't personally think that's going to happen. And
I promise if I will squeal and I'll record it, I'll squeal with delight if we get MacBooks next week.
What makes you think that you need to record that or that anyone wants to hear that?
For my own embarrassment, people want to see me. No, I've got no shame. That's the trouble.
What about iPads? I mean, obviously the iPad Air probably not due a refresh. iPad Pro's already been refreshed. Will we see? In fact, the standard iPad was refreshed as well, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
the iPad Mini is still waiting for a refresh. Will we get that at this event?
Could get one, but there is talk of a separate event for that.
That's Outlook again.
I'm gonna
And
start sending
you
emails
just
now.
watched me, Pete. I
but
I'm
you've
on
got-
mute.
You've got focus. Press the other button. Press the moon.
Yeah, it's on Do Not Disturb because my watch was on Do Not Disturb.
Click Do Not Disturb. There you go. Now you won't get any.
So why didn't it do it when I did it on my watch like it usually does?
Oh, is your watch running the beta?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know then.
Oh well, there we go.
Tech support live on the podcast.
Regardless of that, you've just seen anyway how my volume was down. So if we got a separate volume, I should know this stuff, shouldn't I? My ringer volume is down as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it a dead ringer?
Let's move on.
Do, do, do.
So possibly an iPad mini, possibly. And we're expecting then also that we would get the launch of the public release of iOS 15 and iPadOS 15.
Yeah.
And if you're an M1 iPad Pro user, you will definitely want to get that, particularly if you're interested in using Thunderbolt storage, because it does work a lot better in the new version.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm.
Does it sort out the shading around the bezel?
No, it does not,
Okay.
because you cannot fix a hardware fault like that with software.
Well, I can exclusively reveal that Apple have redefined hardware and software integration so that the nanotechnology within the iPad can redefine itself to fix things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, you do come out with some rubbish, Pete, honestly.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've been banging on at me for buying the M1 and everything, and, you know, sitting there feeling all superior with your 2018 model and everything.
Yeah.
Have you ordered your M1 yet?
No. I am on the cusp because mine is starting to slow down now.
Is it?
So I am going to have to get one, and I'm going to have to put up with that shadowing around the bezel, so I can't mock you anymore. But I think that's why I've been holding on, is so that I could just maximum mockage
Okay.
beforehand.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this brings us to the part of the show where you do a jingle.
Yeah, I've prepared one this week, and those of a certain 1980s television program may appreciate what I've done here. I'm going to try and do this. I hope this works well.
I hope we don't get a copyright strike.
No, I have. I've dealt with that by amending some things.
Really looking forward to this. Oh, for goodness sake.
The Rumour Mill, a shadowy flight into a world of facts that don't exist.
Oh,
No,
it's going
don't do it again.
It's on loop. Sorry.
Good grief. Welcome to the Rumour Mill. And you've already spoiled one of the rumours anyway, because you mentioned it.
What's that?
Apple Watch 7.
No one's paying attention. Just say it again.
Okay, so Mac rumours are reporting that Apple Watch 7 will be late and or in limited quantities at launch time.
Hmm.
And I can't remember why. They're citing production issues.
Oh, it's going to be the chip shortage, surely.
No, I think it's Mark. Is it Mark Gurman? Yeah, he's a Bloomberg journalist. What he's saying is production issues and not much more,
Okay.
basically.
Well,
production issues, Pete.
What I would say is Mark Gurman of Bloomberg is normally pretty reliable with his rumours. He's called a few things accurately before, so I would say that's probably a green.
Yeah, sorry, I should have read this before actually recording the podcast, but we're a bit time impoverished today. It's the display that's potentially got the issue, and usually when you get this, then you either get an announcement delayed until issues are fixed, or they still announce and launch in small quantities, or they'll announce but it will go on sale at a later date. And that has happened several times in the past with Apple launches. So, yeah, I'm going to go with you on that. I think a green. I think that's entirely believable. Production issues, because it's a new shape. It's not the same shape. So.
No.
There we go. That's good. That's rumour number one.
Yeah.
Here's
Rumour number
another.
2.
So this has come from a couple of different places. Go on, you put it in. So.
Well, there's a hike in prices coming for the new iPhones, the new iPads, and the new MacBooks when they eventually drop. And the chip shortage and the increase in foundries pricing is being cited as the main cause of that.
Yeah, so TSMC, which is the foundry that Apple uses for all its stuff, is putting up its prices from October.
And there's talk. This isn't a few pounds. This is potentially hundreds increase in certain things. So a Pro Max phone, if there is one, which there will be, we're talking maybe a few £100s more. So not insignificant. I've got a question for you though. Do you think that Apple are just passing on the price hikes that are coming from the foundry, or do you think they're adding a little bit on top, just to protect Tim's pension?
I think Apple uses every opportunity to make money, but they do it through upgrade pricing. So I think they will do everything they can to get the entry-level model at the right price point, but you'll get mullered on the upgrades. So if you want a bit more storage or anything else like that. Erin's got so bored of listening to us, she's just walked off.
I don't blame her. In fact, if we could be watching this podcast live, probably everyone's just switched off by now.
So will Apple pass on the price rises? I don't see why they wouldn't. They make a huge amount of profit anyway. Their own silicon is far more profitable for them than using Intel ever was, and yet they didn't really pass those savings on. So I would say green for that.
And they'll probably put it as, and this is great for the environment because it means that we'll be selling less of these things, so less to go into landfill.
Something else that I've noticed in the UK as well, and I think this is just worth mentioning at this point, because I probably should have mentioned it earlier, is that they're trying to push people down this road of getting Apple Care by making repairs so expensive that you would just think this is a no-brainer. But they've changed it in the UK. So it's now called Apple Care Plus, and for a phone, it's gone from £79 for a 2-year plan to £150.
Whoa! So more or less doubled.
Yeah, and if you've got the Max, the Pro Max phone, it's £200 for
do you remember back in the day when you could buy a phone for £200?
Yeah. Well, you still
can. Yeah. But that's crazy.
It is, and I suspect the same sort of price rises on all the stuff. It does make Apple stuff really expensive if you.
Mind you, I did a few years ago. Well, it's quite a few years ago now. I cracked one of my screens on my iPhone, and I thought, no, I'm not going to get it repaired by Apple. I didn't have Apple Care on it, so I went to a local dealer, phone repair guy to get it fixed, and the fix looked great. It looked like new. But do you remember the game Street Fighter 2?
Yes.
Okay. That had something called collision issues, i.e. when you went to punch someone, it missed. Well, my screen developed the Street Fighter 2 issue in that when you went to, key in number 5, you get a 3. Basically, the whole screen was just off, and you had to relearn where to put your finger to actually make contact. So it kind of put me off getting third-party people to repair it.
Yeah, and I think Apple has made that more difficult as well, because there are certain components that you just cannot swap out anyway.
Yeah. Lewis Rossman is on a crusade about this.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
It is what it is, though. At the end of the day, this is the game, and if you want to play the game and have a smartphone, then look, this is the way it is. That's the rules of the game. Yeah, Apple charge what they want. You're stuffed. You just got to go along with it, or go and live off grid.
Yeah,
or buy an Android, or live off grid. But, I mean, for me, I'd rather live off grid. I think, but
I'd rather never speak to anyone again.
I'm only joking, Android users. There's nothing wrong with Android. I just don't like it. Personal thing. Here's another rumour, which you've put in, so you may as well read it.
Yeah, new AirPods 3. That in of itself isn't a particularly new rumour. That's been circulating for a while. Supposedly going to sit between the Pro and the wireless charging models at the moment. I've seen some renders of them where basically they look more or less the same, but the stem is shorter, so they're even easier to lose. But what made me put this in is the fact that AirPods Pro are now below £200 in the UK on Amazon. So they're £175 at the moment instead of the 250-ish, 260 that they normally are. And I think similar things have happened in the US under the guise of the Labor Day sale or something like that. But the prices for normal AirPods are lower. that suggests to me stock being cleared, ready for new stock. So I would say that that probably is something we can be fairly sure of at the next consumer event.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's entirely possible. I'll go amber on that
Okay.
because Apple do sometimes clear out stock and not release new products.
Mhm.
We'll put a link in the description to Apple Store and Amazon. It's a good place to get deals. The M1 iPad Pro is cheaper on there.
Yeah.
Everything's cheaper actually. You just can't get the custom build, custom to order stuff.
But if you don't want that, why not go there?
I have seen as well, if you're in the States, I've seen that the original Magic Keyboard case, which does work perfectly fine with the new iPad Pro, is down to some very low price compared to what it was, and I think under $100. So worth having a look around for that as well. Good
As they
deals to be
say in
had.
medieval times, grab thyself a bargain.
I imagine they all said that in medieval times.
Yeah.
And the final thing that I've put on the list, and it's not really a rumour either, it's I saw this from a Twitter post by Dave Zatz, and he says the new Apple Magsafe charger. So there's a new Apple Magsafe charger that's gained FCC approval. So that would lend credence to everyone who's suggesting that Magsafe is coming back to the MacBooks, and why wouldn't it? I mean, that was a stupid thing to remove. And possibly
Yeah,
new
well-
MacBooks coming if they've got that sorted.
New MacBooks are coming. It's just a question of when.
Hmm.
But wouldn't that be going back to our main topic? Wouldn't that be a great reveal next week?
Yeah, it would. I don't think it's going to happen,
No.
but it would be good.
If it does, then Apple have done a really good job at keeping it under wraps.
Hmm.
I think there's so many points in the supply chain where someone can give something away that it must be very hard for them. But we'll see.
Good. Well, we probably ought to wrap it up. We did say we'd do some McDonald's stuff this.
Did we?
Yeah.
What were we
I
going to do?
think there was some more McDonald's tips, but I feel like after 52 minutes,
Nobody wants to hear that.
nobody wants to hear that.
So we probably just wrap it up and see you next week, hopefully, for a live event.
Hopefully, yeah. So watch the space on the main channel, so youtube.com/constantgeekery.
Yeah, I do have something actually, just to stick in at the last minute. We
Go
have
on.
got our web developer testing our M1 MacBook Air now. So he's agreed to come on a future live show that we've talked about and explain his findings there. So that may be the final piece in the jigsaw for a lot of people thinking about going to Apple Silicon.
Yeah, could be.
Anyway,
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you're listening on your favourite platform of choice.
do you really tune in anymore?
I don't know. Do
Log-
people play with knobs at all anymore?
Logging on?
That's got. We just need to stop.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. I don't know where that come from. I'm sorry.